The basketball season is well underway, and we have lots to catch up on here on our final episode of Mason Sports Insider for 2016. I am Dan Ward, and this is Mason Sports Insider. So how has the basketball team fared this season? If you haven't been staying up to date with it, well, you've missed a lot. After losing star senior Siobhan Thompson to graduation, there were some question marks coming into this season about the team. Those questions quickly turned into concerns when the team started the season 1-3 with losses to Towson, Mount St. Mary's, and an obliteration against Houston. Since then, though, they've gone on a 5-game winning streak to see their record rise to 6-3 on the season. When we take a look at the standings, even though it is only out-of-conference games and some teams have more difficult schedules than others, it is still nice to see Mason sitting up high in that 6th spot ahead of some noticeable opponents. The reigning conference champs, St. Joseph's, revolutionary rival George Washington, and the heavy favorite to win the conference, the Rhode Island Rams. Their wins this season are against Lebanon Valley, Kent State, Bradley, James Madison, Northern Iowa at UNI, and Mercer. They have relied a lot on guard play with the exception of Jalen Jenkins. At times this year, they have run a 5-guard offense, but one man who is not playing like a guard is senior Marquise Moore. And when we go ahead and take a look at the statistical leaders for the team, we will see Moore right at the top in both points and rebounds and sitting pretty at second in assists. 17.3 points per game through 9 games and 10 rebounds a contest for Moore. He is just behind Otis Livingston II in assists per game with 2.9. This is for a guard who used to start at point guard and is only 6'2". You also see Otis Livingston II, Jair Greer, and Justin Kier as 3 of the top 5 scorers, all of whom are guards. Jalen Jenkins is the only true forward that starts and plays substantial minutes. He is tied for 3rd in scoring and 2nd on the team in rebounds with 6.4. These 5 have been the main starters all season, with Moore, Livingston, and Greer starting all 9 games, Jenkins and Kier having started 8. Now, we don't want to get too carried away, but it is nice to see them winning. They're competing in every game other than the Houston game, which is something we haven't been able to say in my 4 years at Mason. They're playing consistently and competitively, game in and game out. Marquise has gotten better and better every year, and he is exciting to watch this year. He has really taken over as a leader both on and off the court in his senior year. Now, he does need to get better at the free throw line. He gets there a lot and is shooting far more free throws than anybody else on the team, but he's only shooting at 68%. Not terrible, especially for somebody who struggled in the beginning of his career with shooting, but it certainly could be a little higher. Otis is continuing his success from last year. He currently leads the team in 3-pointers made, which is a great sign, and it was a much-needed addition to his game, which was mostly slashing, driving, and passing last year. Both have been consistent, shooting the ball very well, and they're leading the team in offense this season. The rest of the starters have been consistent, which is important. Jenkins has been great in games where he doesn't get into foul trouble. That has been really the only problem so far for him this season. Greer, meanwhile, is not shooting at the same level that he was last year. It's still early in the season, but I feel like he can turn it around and get a little bit more. He's averaging around 10 points per game, as you saw, but he is a player with the skill set that can score 15 points a game. Meanwhile, off the bench, Ian Boyd has been a strong player off the bench in his limited minutes, passing exceptionally well and playing excellent defense. Now, there are some concerns, though, with this team. There's very little scoring coming from the bench, and that could be an issue. There's no forward that is playing more than 12 minutes except for Jalen Jenkins, and as we said, sometimes they have to rely on 5 guards on the court at a time. These are talented guards, but that can get you into trouble. Opponents are still making the 3 ball, although they're not shooting it at a very good clip, and they're only scoring 1 point less than Mason, so it's tight ball games. The biggest concern for me is will Moore and Livingston be able to keep this pace through the rest of the season? They're averaging 36 and 35 minutes a game. It's going to be tough to continue that through conference play, really hoping that somebody else can step up off the bench. But this is an exciting start to the season, and there is a lot of energy surrounding Mason basketball. It's starting to really feel real again, real energy that you love in the arena at Eagle Bank Arena. Great start, and let's hope that they can keep this winning streak alive. But now we're going to talk about the other basketball team, the women's basketball team, who is currently looking to start a winning streak of their own, for they have won their last 2 games. They currently sit just behind the men with a record of 5-4, but there is really only one game in those 4 losses in which the Patriots were truly outplayed. Their wins have come against Radford in their home opener, LIU Brooklyn, Norfolk State, Detroit Mercy, and University of Massachusetts. Their losses have been against really strong opponents: University of Delaware, University of Arizona, Stephen F. Austin, and at the time, the undefeated Towson Tigers. That means it's a top CAA team in Delaware, a team from a Power 5 conference in the Pac-12, one of the most winningest programs in women's college basketball history in Stephen F. Austin, and an undefeated team. Only in the Delaware game were they completely outplayed in the last 17 minutes of the game. The other three came down to the wire, including a 1-point loss to Stephen F. Austin and a 4-point loss to the Tigers. With their win, however, over the University of Massachusetts, the Patriots are technically tied for first place in the A10, and that is certainly exciting. 8 teams have played each other so far in the out-of-conference schedule, which is slightly different than last year, as they've moved one conference game into the out-of-conference schedule. Overall, the Patriots are 4th in the A10, based on the out-of-conference record, behind St. Louis, George Washington, and Fordham. Similarly to the men, however, it is out-of-conference, so don't get too excited yet, but it's certainly nice to be sitting up high in the rankings. The star players for the Patriots are numerous, but they have been led by redshirt senior Kara Wright. After being 3rd on the team in scoring last year, she now leads the Patriots in points, rebounds, assists, and shooting percentage, averaging 15 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists, and shooting at 54% from the field. This past week, she was named Conference Player of the Week after averaging 18.5 points, 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 2 steals in 2 games, which also included a 22-point, 10-rebound performance against conference rival UMass, notching her 2nd career double-double, the first of which she got this season. While this team's bench has contributed more than the men's, the starting 5 still does most of the heavy lifting. JC Bolton is having a strong start to her collegiate career, averaging just under 10 points per game, 3.3 rebounds per game, and is 2nd on the team with 12 steals. Shanieri Bell is averaging 8, 5, and 2 assists here in her sophomore season, and freshman Sarah Kaminsky has started to turn up the offense at the point guard position while continuing to run the offense and act as a coach on the floor. She's averaging 6.6 and 1.7 assists while making the 2nd most threes on the team behind Kara Wright. Tiffany Paget continues to look solid in her 2nd year with the team. Although her shooting percentage is down, she's still averaging 6 points and 5.5 rebounds per game. These players have started the most games, but there have been some lineup changes recently. Now with that, the bench has shown up in multiple games, with 5 players making an appearance in 8 or more games, but the 2 players we're going to key in and focus on for this episode are juniors Taylor Dodson and freshman Alexis Great. Dodson, who started every game last season, has seen her role change a bit this year as she's moved to a bench role and is also moving from the small forward position to the power forward position. She has embraced her role, however, as she is tied for 4th on the team in points and rebounds and is tied for 2nd in assists. She's also getting to the line and forcing the opponent's big men to get into foul trouble, as she is shooting the 3rd most foul shots on the team. This effort and drive has actually led to Coach Millicent starting her over the last 2 games. Last game, she had 8 points and a career-high 7 assists. Great, meanwhile, doesn't have the best of numbers statistically, but her role on defense has been tremendous. Easily the best defensive guard on the team, Great has utilized her size and speed to lock down opposing guards. Off the bench, she is averaging nearly 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists per game, and is also 2nd on the team in steals with 12, tied with fellow freshman JC Bolton. Many players have contributed off the bench this season, but these 2 have made the biggest impact in my eyes so far. So lots of players are playing valuable and quality minutes on this team. Although their pictures were not displayed, a lot of credit should be given out to Bridget O'Donnell, Sylvia Maxwell, Casey Davis, and Allie McCool, who have all been strong off the bench this season. Now, this team's record, when you look at it, is very unique. Their wins and losses are interesting. In their wins, they're averaging around 62 or 63 points a game, but in their losses, they're actually scoring more. They're averaging around 70 points per game. Now, granted, the wins are against less offensively talented teams, but their offense plays better when the offense of the opposing team shows up. They're almost matching their opponent's level of play, if you will. So when the good teams show up, they play well. When the poorer teams show up, they don't necessarily play as well. They've been waking up for the big games, and they're winning the games that they're supposed to win. So that's nice, but it's very interesting. While you'd like them to score 70-plus points regardless of the opponent, it has been great to see them winning the games that they should win, and again, competing against the better teams. A couple of changes and a couple of plays go their way. They could easily be 7-2 or even 8-1 this season. Told you that really only the game against Delaware was one that they should have lost. You can tell that this is a young team because of their inconsistency game in and game out. had some games with tremendous offense and others where they were weak. They're heavily turnover prone, which could hurt them in the long run, especially against conference opponents. That will be something that they have to clean up. They came in being expected to finish in the bottom half of the A10, but based on the way they're playing and the way that they played against some competitive opponents, it bodes well for them moving forward. Now, the freshmen, the star-studded 5 that have come in this season, they've been great and better than expected, at least from what I was expecting. And Kara Wright is looking like a potential A10 Player of the Year candidate if she, too, can be a little bit more consistent. It's a fun team to watch this year, just like the men's. Both teams are playing competitively. Both teams have a winning record. Both teams are looking to extend winning streaks. It's a great time for Mason basketball. Conference play doesn't begin until January for both teams, but it is an exciting time for Mason basketball, which is something that couldn't necessarily have been said these last couple of years. So, hey, let's go Mason, because it's fun right now. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the other teams that have their stuff going on. There are some important headlines in Mason athletics. The wrestling team is in the middle of their season. Swimming and diving has wrapped up their fall season, and then indoor track and field will be starting in just a little bit. So here are some of the key headlines for those 3 sports. For wrestling, senior Sahid Kargbo claimed the Navy Classic title at a weight of 149. Kargbo also remained undefeated to lead Mason Wrestling to their first win of the season. Mason Wrestling 1-3 in the early going, getting ready for EWL conference play. Senior Sydney Fisher and junior Alec Morin competed at national championships in Atlanta. The results still pending. And the indoor track and field teams begin their season hosting the Father Diamond Invitational on January 9th. For more info on these main headlines, you can check out Mason Athletics' website, gomason.com. So that'll do it for the sports updates and my personal opinions. And once again, the last episode of 2016. So for when we take a look at the upcoming schedule, we're going to take a look at this week specifically and some of the more important and highlighted games to end the month of December. First, wrestling will host a doubleheader starting at 5:30 this Friday versus North Dakota State and Maryland. These will be the final home matches of 2016, so the last chance in 2016 to check out your wrestling team. Men's basketball will look to make it 6 in a row Wednesday at Penn State at 7 p.m. You may already know the result of that game, depending on when you're watching this episode. Then they'll head to University of Pennsylvania Saturday for a 2 o'clock game. They also have 3 home games to end the month: December 12th versus Longwood, December 22nd versus Prairie View A&M, and their final game of 2016 at home, December 30th versus VCU for the start of conference play. Then women's basketball, they will be at Georgetown this Thursday at 7 p.m. looking for a 3rd win in a row. They'll be at Illinois State Sunday at 2, and then their remaining schedule as far as home games are concerned for December, they'll be home against Navy on December 20th, and that game's a little special because it will be played in the RAC gym, not at Eagle Bank Arena. And then they wrap up 2016 on New Year's Eve with a home game against St. Bonaventure. Be sure to come out and support all those home games. The schedule for all the teams over winter break can be found at gomason.com for all the January games and beyond. If you can't make it to the home games or you want to listen to the road games, you can usually find them streaming online on the Go Mason Digital Network and the A10 Network. So that'll do it for the final episode of 2016 of Mason Sports Insider. There will be some changes in 2017, some big, some small, some you might not even notice, but I hope you all come back to see what they are all about. Should be a fun second half for the basketball teams, and the spring season is always exciting here at Mason. Baseball looking to rebound from last season, lacrosse looking to do just as well, if not better, finally defeat UMass if they can. And then we have track and field and men's volleyball trying to reclaim their title as EIVA conference champs. Softball, golf, tennis, so much action in the spring. It's always a lot of fun. But I hope you all enjoy your holiday season and the winter break. Best of luck on all your finals. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's. Enjoy yourselves. But until next time, and for the final time in 2016, I am Dan Ward saying so long, God bless, and go Patriots.